All right, so here's my 2020 250XC, and today I'm going to be doing the Slavens idle screw, but for cheap, and I'm going to be sharing it with you guys. I'm not taking any credit for anything I'm going to show you. Basically, I just did a lot of dabbling and research online, and I took a little bit from other people's experience, and I'm going to compile it all into this video to make it easy for somebody else that wants to do this mod to raise their idle on their TPI without having to unbolt the subframe and lift it, or pull the entire throttle body assembly out, or to pull the exhaust off, because it is quite a lot of bit to do. So this is going to be the easiest method. So just a quick reason why I'm doing the slavens idle mod. If your bike stalls going down long descents where you get the clutch pulled in, there's clutch drag, and the idles are just too low on these TPIs. I know they do it for emissions reasons and yada yada yada. And then also I just did my first J day, and I had a false start kind of on my second heat, where when I started the bike and I went to go give it a fistful of throttle, it just crapped out on me. And my 150 did the same thing, and when I did that idle mod, it made that bike a hell of a lot better. It started way faster, started in gear every single time, and it just started really fast. And you know, it's very important, especially with, you know, hare scramble racing, that your bike is very consistent and reliable on starting, because starts are everything. Or unless you're really really fast, then you know, whatever, you can make up time. But okay, so you know, I will say right off the bat, that when I did that idle mod on my 150, that was the single best thing I've ever did to that bike. So it can only help this bike. So what you're going to need right off the bat is a soldering iron. This thing has seen better days, yes I know, but it was cheap. You could probably pick one up at Harbor Freight for about $5, $5 or $10 max. If you have a good soldering iron, one that gets really hot, it'll work even better, but that one will work. You're going to need a T20 Torx, and that is for the cover for the throttle cam. You may or may not need a pair of channel locks. I'm not sure. I mean, I used them, but you may not need them. What I'm using is a 2.5 millimeter T-handle, like hex. And this is kind of what I used when I did the 150, but I used a smaller Allen key. But I cannot find the Allen key, of course, so I use this hex. A lot of people say it's a Torx. I didn't find it when I took the grub screw out, because I already did this. I'm doing this for you guys. I already took the grub screw out. But when I took it out, it doesn't look like a Torx. But I think maybe other people's are different. Maybe they just put whatever they want in there, or they switch them up. I don't know. But here's another 2.5, but it's, you know, got a different handle. I was trying different things. And then not but last least, this is a GoPro, I don't know what you call a, not a bolt, but you know, a fastener. And this is what I'm going to be using for my idle screw, because I'm thankful that Slavens came out with the idle screw, and you know, it definitely helped. But let's face it, I paid damn near almost $70 after taxes and shipping for that screw and spring, and I can't see paying that much. So this is the cheap way. This is going to be about, if you have this stuff, it's going to cost you maybe $5-10 max. You know, you guys probably all have, you know, a GoPro mount thing. So the only other thing you would have to get is, I got this from Home Depot, is a spring assortment kit, and this was $4, and I needed this anyway, because I'm always looking for springs. It has like the pull springs and the push springs, all different sizes, all different tensions. Definitely a good value. You'll definitely use those at some point. Okay, so as you can see here, I already had my spring picked out, and you can see this GoPro mount. You'll see that, let's see, these were the same, but what I did was I cut with the Dremel tool right along there with a cutting wheel. And reason being is you need the shaft on here to be long enough to enter through the bottom of the throttle body and be able to push up on the lever. And as it sits like that, it just wasn't long enough. Now I understand all GoPro the mount hardware like this, some are longer than others. These were like knockoff ones, so they're shorter, and I preferably would want the shorter one because there's not a whole lot of room going on down there. So if you have the longer one, you may not need to cut this, but or maybe it just, yeah, you may not need to cut it, I'm not sure, but I cut mine. You'll size it up and you'll see. So all right, let's get down to business and let's do this. Alright, first and foremost, before we even get started, I'm going to start up my bike so you can just hear the idle. It's a cold start, it's going to idle a little bit lower, but this bike does idle pretty damn low, and that's the reason for it stalling out at slow speeds in gear and then having a hard time starting in gear. Not wicked hard, but hard enough to where just raising the idle will fix everything. But here it is. All right, that's entirely too low. We can agree on that for sure. All right, so at this point, you want to make sure your soldering iron's plugged in. Let it get nice and warm because it does take a while. But right under here, there's two clamps holding the throttle body on each side with the boot. You're gonna loosen those all the way up. Okay. And I'm gonna tilt this towards me a little bit. Okay, now, and the reason I tilted the throttle body towards me on the other side, now I'm on the right side of the bike, is to access this what the hell was it, T20 screw, and this is the cover for the throttle cam that's in there, or your push and pull cam for your throttle cables. Yeah, I know that was loose. That's because I already did this already and I knew I was going to be making this video. So, and then what you want to do is pull this cover off, and you might need that flathead screwdriver to get up underneath. I got it. It's on there. All right, and there's the cover that you're taking off. Now, I'm going to tilt this that way. Now, I just want you to take a look at in there. It's probably, sorry about the camera, it's probably really hard to see, but there's the little devil himself. That's the culprit everybody keeps talking about. That's the grub screw that you have to reach from the bottom down there and up into here. And I'm using a 2.5 millimeter hex. You could buy that at Harbor Freight. I'm sure you have an Allen key, but it's Loctited with a red Loctite right up at the top in there. And let me tell you, it is in there. Some people say they had a lot of luck and it wasn't in there strong. Mine was in there very strong. All right, so at this point, I got my hot soldering iron, and you're going to stick it, sorry for the camera angle, you're going to stick it the soldering iron right between the grub screw and the top of that throttle cam. And you're just gonna let it sit there for a good 15-20 minutes. Just let it get really hot and kind of gummy up the red Loctite. Before all that, which I should have said, I don't know if you could see the black Sharpie that I had. I actually marked off from here to here the stock setting, so if anything goes awry or wrong, or if I want to put it back to stock setting, I'll know where it's at. Also, for the people that want to do this real cheap, that don't have a GoPro assembly screw mount, basically all you can do is you can pull this grub screw out and then clean off the red Loctite, and then screw it back in and screw it up more to raise the idle. But the only bad thing about that, I mean, if you're in a bind and you got a race and you just want to raise the idle, you can do it that way, but you can't change it again without, you know, I mean, I would put a little dab of blue Loctite in there just to keep it from backing out. But if you find that the idle's too high or not high enough, then you got to go through this again and, you know, screw this up in there. And you're trying to play a guessing game versus doing it this way. You can just use your fingers and screw it and unscrew it. So you want to mark that, and then put your soldering iron in there and leave it in there for a long, you know, good amount of time. Let it get nice and hot. All right. Once you know you got that soldering iron on there for a while, and you think the grub screw is nice and hot, you're gonna now push this way, and there's a little keyhole in here that locks the throttle body into the boot. Try to pull the throttle body back this way. It slides underneath the boot anyways, but you know, just be mindful of that. And you can slide this all the way up until your choke pull hits this little relay up here, and here is the hole that you're working with here. And on this side, you're gonna want to stick your hot soldering iron in there also, and just let it sit there on the on that grub screw. Get it nice and hot, because the heat's going to transfer through the metal and melt the red Loctite. Now, you don't want to do what I did with my 150. I did the wrong way. I left this on here and used propane torch. It's not the smartest idea, being the gas tank is right here. You just never know. That was really stupid of me to do. So this is the way that you can do it without having to pull this off, is using the soldering iron. That's the trick, and it will melt it. Just if you leave it on there long enough. Now, when you're ready for that, let's see. Now we're gonna use our 2.5 millimeter T-hex, and you'll have to feel around in there for it. Now, I'm gonna tell you too, there's gonna be a little slight bit of play. You're gonna be like, oh, this isn't it. There's too much play. Let me just tell you, I think it's a special size, because the sizes are either too big or just a hair small. But I put a lot of torque on this, and it didn't strip or anything. But you want to go slow, and basically you're gonna turn it, and it catches, and then you're just gonna keep putting pressure, and this shaft is gonna, you know, it's gonna freaking flex. It's gonna completely torque out of shape. You're putting a lot of force on there. You don't want to snap it, but you're just going to keep going in really small increments, and you're going to see it. It's like, you just don't snap it, you know, just keep going small increments. If you have to, go backwards a little bit and then go forwards again. If you have to heat the grub screw again, heat it. Take your time, do this right, because if you strip that out, it's going to be a pain in the butt for you later. But this will work. It worked for me. Now, you might need to use the channel locks like this. I ended up having to use it to get a little bit extra torque going on there. So that's what I did. And eventually the grub screws let loose, and then you'll be able to just, you know, unscrew it out. And it's got a lot of threads in there. And like I said, if you don't have that GoPro mount screw and you want to just be cheap about it and do a quick thing, so, you know, just a race for the weekend or whatever, you can always screw this in. So there's the culprit. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see that, it's not a Torx, it is a hex. There's a little bit of movement, but this goes in deep enough. It really does. And right up in here is where the red Loctite's going to be. I removed it, obviously. That's why it came out so easy. I put some brake clean on there and just with a razor blade, and I removed it out. And basically, if you want to reuse this, just put a little dab of blue Loctite. And then, like I said, you know, you mark off on this side where the lever is, and then you'll just screw it up, and as it pushes the lever up, it raises the idle. And there's that. That's the way to do it for free, is to reuse this grub screw, but then you have to do this again to readjust it. So I'm going to replace mine with this. And hopefully the spring works out for me. I don't know if it is. I mean, it's trial and error here. I didn't pre-do this. But I don't know why it wouldn't work. And basically all the spring is doing, I probably should use a washer. Basically all the spring is doing is holding tension. Instead of using Loctite, it's holding tension so the screw does not back out. So I'm going to move this back to kind of see where I'm at on the other side. Again, keeping in mind that little keyhole right up in here on that boot. Okay, so this is what we're looking like. I know it's hard to see using the GoPro, but there's the line down here, and here is where I have the cam now. And you can see the spring with that screw, and it almost looks like it belongs. But we'll take a look. So all right, so we're gonna start the bike up now and see how this goes. All right, the idle's too low, so let me adjust this screw. This is why I was saying the good thing about having the screw that you can adjust with your hand. All right, let's see. So when you get a hanging idle like that, you're gonna go over to this side, because now when you're changing the idle and your air fuel because this is way out. Now I'm gonna close this off, and then I'm gonna start it again and raise the idle until there's no more hanging idle. So I'll be right back. All right, so she's all buttoned back up. Let's give her a start. It's definitely idling a little better now, a little faster. I already tried it, starting it in gear, and it definitely starts a lot faster. This air screw was way out like 3.5 turns. If you find that you have a hanging idle after you do this mod, you're gonna turn this air screw all the way in, which closes the needle to let less air in, which if you turn it out, it's gonna let more air, and you're gonna have more of a hanging idle when you rev the gas. So I got mine all the way in, and there's a slight hanging idle, but I believe there was anyways when it was just stock. I'm not sure. Some people talked about getting their throttle position sensor reflashed or something, or recalibrated, I'm sorry. I don't know, but I'm gonna try this out and see how it works, see how it starts in gear at the race this weekend, and hopefully no more stalls going down hills. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next one.